Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, April 23rd. From the San Antonio Express News, my name is Luis Vasquez, and this is your Express Briefing. All of the stories you need to know to start your day. There's potential for hail and damaging winds Friday in San Antonio as a dry line moves into the area. You can expect a high of 80 degrees in San Antonio today. President Joe Biden on Thursday moved to put 4 years of official climate denial behind the United States, declaring America would cut its global warming emissions at least in half by the end of the decade. With a strong push from taxpayers, Southwest Airlines is the first major U.S. airline to report a profit since the pandemic started. Southwest reported net income of $116 million in the first quarter, although it would have lost $1 billion without federal aid to help cover labor costs. And now let's move on to our top stories for the day. When Brian and Sherry Reimer were planning their new home in Cordillera Ranch, they knew they wanted to be a place where it could regularly host friends and families for parties and overnight stays. They wanted to build a place where their guests would be comfortable, have lots to do, and also have plenty of privacy, and where they'd never have to share a bathroom. The 8,300 square foot home sits on 8.5 acres overlooking the Guadalupe River Valley. Construction took about 18 months and cost $3.6 million, including $550 million in add-ons, according to Brian, who is retired from the construction industry. The massive home has 2 kitchens, 6 guest rooms with en-suites, an outdoor play area, and an infinity pool. Richard Marini takes you inside in his latest article. A trio of Texans in Congress is proposing a bipartisan bill they say will help handle the influx of migrants arriving at the southern border, a move U.S. Senator John Cornyn described as a first step towards broader immigration reform that has eluded lawmakers for years. The legislation would speed adjudication of asylum claims while building new processing centers to address overcrowding in border facilities. U.S. Representatives Henry Cuellar, a Laredo Democrat, and Tony Gonzalez, a San Antonio Republican, are pushing a companion bill in the House. It is the first bipartisan, bicameral attempt to address the latest surge in migrants arriving at the southern border, which has emerged as the first major political dilemma of the Joe Biden presidency. Benjamin Wermund has more in his latest article. Legislation aimed at quelling a rise in anti-Asian hate crimes during the coronavirus pandemic easily passed the U.S. Senate on Thursday, with both the Texas Republican senators backing the Democratic bill. The nearly unanimous vote comes as the number of hate crimes Asian Americans reported nationally skyrocketed over the last year, with Texans reporting the 4th most in the nation in 2020, according to a recent study. Benjamin Wermund takes a closer look at the bill in his latest article. Columnist Gilbert Garcia writes, quote, Texas has spent a decade reaping the benefits of a waiver meant to be a bridge to Medicaid expansion without actually adopting Medicaid expansion. That's the political dance Texas Republicans do. We hate the ACA, but don't you dare take away those ACA waiver funds. It's like those 1970s rock music diehards who insisted they hated disco, but didn't hesitate to buy a disco record when the Rolling Stones put out Miss You. It's about labeling, not substance. It's about partisan obstinacy, not principle. You can read Gilbert Garcia's full column over at expressnews.com. For generations, many an abuelita or other Latina matriarchs have wielded the foam flip-flop as the ultimate disciplinary measure against misbehaving children. Smacking them up close when at arm's reach, or flinging that footwear across the room like a heat-seeking missile. La chancla is now as much a symbol for Mexican-American culture as the Dia de los Muertos sugar skull and Loteria's El Corazón, and it's led to the marketing home run of the Flying Chanclas de San Antonio, the alter ego of San Antonio's minor league baseball team. Rene Guzman takes a closer look at the iconic footwear that still inspires fears and cheers from across generations. Next up are your need-to-know headlines. You can find all of these headlines and more inside of your Express News subscription. The Texas House on Thursday defeated an amendment to expand Medicaid-funded health coverage for hundreds of thousands of low-income Texans, likely closing off any viable path for Democrats to move the decade-long effort forward this session. More than 1 million Bexar County residents have received at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, about 54% of the eligible population. About 34% have been fully vaccinated, but officials say it's not enough as 249 new cases were reported Thursday. Valero Energy Corporation took a loss of $704 million in the first 3 months of the year, but the San Antonio-based refiner said it's seeing demand for fuel recover as vaccinations begin to help quell the pandemic. It appears to be the end of the line for some restaurant chains, including Old Country Buffet, Hometown Buffet, and Ryan's Buffet. The chain's operators, based in San Antonio, filed 15 bankruptcy petitions this week. After several years of political turbulence, Leon Valley voters face another key decision about city council leadership in the May 1st election. Within days of the deadly winter storm in February, Mayor Ron Nirenberg pulled together a panel to investigate CPS Energy and SAW service outages during the disaster. So far, the group has shared a few, if any, answers. 2 San Antonio men have been indicted on a murder charge in the 2019 death of a man who was hacked with a machete and then ran over. The Texas House moved Thursday to rein in Attorney General Ken Paxton's spending on outside attorneys that are costing taxpayers up to $3,800 an hour. San Antonio is one of 13 cities hosting Navy Week events. The Navy hosts a series of outreach and STEM activities during Navy Week, which includes visits with Boys and Girls Clubs and the Girl Scouts of Southwest Texas. 4 out of 5 Houston Methodist employees are vaccinated against COVID-19. Those who are not could be suspended or fired if they don't get the shot, according to the company policy. John Courage is a rare bird in Texas politics. The self-styled independent Democrat has won 2 terms on the San Antonio City Council, representing District 9 on the north side, whose voters routinely favor Republican. Now he's seeking a 3rd. New Braunfels-based Rush Enterprises Incorporated, owner of the largest commercial truck dealership network in North America, said the first quarter profit nearly doubled from a year ago, driven largely by strong sales of new and used heavy-duty trucks. The Spurs are not alone in being below the 85% vaccination threshold set by the NBA to have some restrictions loosened, writes sports columnist Mike Finger, who calls it maddening. In their latest editorial, Withdrawal from Afghanistan Comes with a Risk, the Express News editorial board writes, quote, "The continued training and support for Afghan security forces is imperative, but the ongoing presence of the U.S. troops is equally crucial." Finding something to do does not seem to be a problem for Yadira Lozano. As executive director of Luminaria, a role she stepped into in December, she's working on putting together this year's festival. The annual Arts Blowout, slated for November 13th in Hemisphere Park, is being planned as a live event that people can attend in person. When 46-year-old Lozano shifts her focus from work, she spends time with her 15-year-old daughter Lydia. She also likes to experiment in the kitchen and tend her garden. The Express News chatted with her about what holds her attention these days. Deborah Martin has that Q&A over at expressnews.com. Riverwalk visitors in a mood for a stroll in a little public art will find lots to see along the museum reach, which runs from Lexington Avenue to the Pearl. We have a guide to what you'll encounter over at expressnews.com. There's so much to do in and around San Antonio this weekend that even dedicated homebodies may be tempted to go out. Several events can be enjoyed outdoors too. Among the many ambitious restaurant projects that opened during the pandemic, Chef Jason Dady's Jardín at the San Antonio Botanical Garden might have been the riskiest. Check out our review over on our website. Elementary school children literally look up at John Hansen when he walks the campus at Great Hearts Northern Oaks, a K-12 charter school located on the far north side. The 6'1" junior is one of the top discus and shot put throwers in the state. The traditional 2-on-1 break has become something of a lost art across the NBA, unless you're the Spurs' Jakob Poeltl. And that's all for today. This was your Express briefing for Friday, April 23rd. My name is Luis Vasquez. Please consider becoming an Express News subscriber to get in-depth coverage on all the stories you heard today. Also, be sure to rate and review this podcast inside of your Apple Podcast app, as it really helps the show. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone.